Here in the small town of Sedalia, North Carolina, stands a school that changed the course of black education in America. Founded by the visionary Dr. Charlotte Hawkins Brown, Palmer Memorial Institute gave thousands of black students a pathway to excellence. From academics to leadership, this wasn't just a school, it was a movement. Welcome to the story of Charlotte Hawkins Brown. All right, what's up, folks? I am in Sedalia, North Carolina, which is not too far from Greensboro, and I'm at the Charlotte Hawkins Brown Historic Site. I've been here a few times. They've had some great staff here that it was very knowledgeable. Unfortunately, they have went on to other sites, elevating their careers. Not that this is a dumping ground, this is a great place to be. But I wanted to show you all this beautiful campus that has some construction going on right now, and tell you a little bit about Charlotte Hawkins Brown. She was an absolute amazing woman, born in Henderson, North Carolina, which is not too far from where my ancestors were out of, which is Warren County, North Carolina. So listen, thank you for joining me. Make sure to subscribe and share with all your friends and family if you find this information helpful. All right, so there is the Welcome Center, which also has various different educational things that talks about Charlotte Hawkins Brown. Right now they're short-staffed, so unfortunately I can't get in, but I may be able to once this person comes back off of break. But until then, this will be self-guided. Some things in her home that was pretty amazing the last time that I was here. See a self-guided tour. There is a piano that is in her home that Nat King Cole once played. And there is a connection between Nat King Cole and Charlotte Hawkins Brown. I'll see if I can get that again. But gonna come out here to the street in this small town, Sedalia, that has a very busy road. And there is a marker over here that is related to women. And it says right here, votes for women. Dr. Charlotte Hawkins Brown, 1883-1961, founder of the Palmer Memorial Institute. And that's the campus that we're on. The Palmer Memorial Institute is the campus in which we're on right now. She worked for voting and civil rights for black women, and she lived here. This is her home right here. And again, hopefully able to get inside there. Staffing issues have always, or have been, more of an issue here. I have found with the various different places that I have been visiting in the state of North Carolina, and I'm sure it's not just here, I'm sure it's in a lot of different places because of budget challenges. So let's walk around more on the site. So this is the Canary Cottage, built in 1925, and this was her residence up until 1961. Here's some people. Oh, there it is right there, Nat King Cole. So it looks like her niece married Nat King Cole. And so that's why the piano that I saw the last time I was here had the information on it about Nat King Cole. And this is her home. It's beautiful. Well constructed, obviously. Still standing after all these years. Screened in porch right here. So she had an amazing view of the campus. Amazing view. Can imagine sipping some sweet tea or some lemonade out here on the front porch. And so her dedication to excellence, it provided so many opportunities for black students at a time when education for them was severely restricted. The impact of her work and her vision just provided so many different opportunities for Black children. So let's keep on going around here and see what we got. So she was born in 1883, again in Henderson, North Carolina, like I mentioned earlier. But her family moved when she was a child to, I believe it was Massachusetts. And she was mentored by a woman named Alice Freeman Palmer. And she was a president of Wesley College. So let me stop flapping my gums real quick and show you all the campus in its entirety. So some of those were dorm rooms, of course, and various different buildings that the students and the staff here utilized. We'll delve a little bit more into that. Here's the campus landscape. It says, from here you can get a sense of what Palmer Memorial Institute looked like during its height. Dr. Brown's vision for the campus was for it to resemble a New England college, reflecting her own early educational environment. So I think that Massachusetts thing was right that I mentioned earlier. I got somewhat of a good memory. But it says the campus hasn't always looked like this. In 1902, Palmer Memorial Institute consisted of just one building, former blacksmith shop, across from the Bethany Community Church, located where the visitors parking lot is today. So this is what it looked like. And those are some students on the lawn. Right here, the early campus was more agricultural. Then in later years, Gregg Hall served as boys' dormitories in 1910. And so they had it parceled out where the boys were on one side and the young ladies were, of course, on the other. So let's go this way. Okay, so these were the teacher cottages up there. We'll go over there in a second. Says built in 1929 with funds provided by the American Missionary Association. The two bungalow residences in front of you, Brightside and Gregg Cottages, served as housing for married teachers. Okay. And this is one of the photos of Ruth Totten from the 1970 yearbook, which students dedicated to her. So this is pretty cool. And there she is right there. I'll see if I can get some better pictures, if I can get into the visitor center of her. And this is the backside of the visitor center. So it's pretty amazing for a woman, a Black woman who was born in the 1880s to come here and get this thing up and running. That's pretty damn amazing, to be honest with you. All right, so this is the Charles W. Eliot and Reynolds Hall. It says, after a campus fire in 1932 destroyed the main boys' dormitory, Canary Cottage plans for a new residence hall had to accelerate. They had to speed that up. However, the fire occurred during the Great Depression and funding was scarce, so only half of the new building could be completed in 1934. This hall, which is right in front of us, was open for residency. It says that Dr. Brown always planned to complete the rest of the building to mirror Galen Stone Hall, but was unable to secure the necessary funding. So in 1968, Ms. Crossom secured funding for the Reynolds Hall directly in front of you. It is freezing out here, y'all, so I can barely talk. So these would be the cottages for the married folk. And this would also be the case sometimes in the case of Rosenwald schools, sometimes the teachers came and lived with the students. Especially if it's a very rural county, they would bring the Rosenwald school teachers and they would live with the families. So you couldn't necessarily get away with being foolish in school, especially if your teacher lived with you. You know what I'm saying? So that would have been a major drawback for me, because I like to act silly in school sometimes. So I didn't need my teacher being a part of that. However, in preschool, both of my aunts, my dad's sisters, were my preschool teachers. So that was pretty cool. So these are the cottages that they're working on. And as you see on that side, there's just a lot of construction that's happening over there, which is pretty dope, because you always like to know that sites are being very intentional about preservation and providing opportunities for future generations, as well as perhaps alumni to come back here and look at it and reflect on the days of its glory. So here's another cottage right there. So we'll walk on down to the other side of campus. Some of the interesting people that attended this institute, one of them was A.D. King, and he was the younger brother of Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And A.D. King also, like his brother, became an advocate for civil rights and a minister. And there were other alumni that went on and became doctors and educators and influential leaders in various fields. And to know that they got their start right here at the Palmer Institute is pretty amazing. Right here, there's a meditation altar. And it says that Palmer groundskeeper James Rudd Sr. constructed the altar with stones brought from across the country and the Caribbean. And each morning, Brown prayed before beginning her long day at the school. The altar was a favorite place for students and faculty to enjoy the scenic beauty of the campus while relaxing and studying, but also used as a timeout area for students who did not follow Brown's strict rules. So, yeah, you talk about having multi-purposes. So, you know, if you were there and if you weren't kneeling and meditating, you were probably in trouble. So here it's Dr. Brown, well, let me see here. Actually, this is the gravesite and memorial, so we'll go up here. She was only 19 when she moved back here and founded this institute. 19, can you imagine being 19 and creating this institute? I mean, golly, the ambition, right? So there's multiple quotes that are along the walkway leading up to her memorial, which is right here. In memory to Charlotte, Dr. Charlotte Hawkins Brown, founder, educator, humanitarian. This was erected by the Association for Study of Afro-American Life and History in cooperation with the Amico Foundation Incorporated. And it sits right there on the side of her home, where she spent countless hours educating, teaching various different skills, and just loving on all of these students. So she passed January the 11th, 1961, as you see. This is really a gem, not only in the South, but just in the country, when you think about it, for it to still be maintained. And I'm not quite sure that when people think of this area, that they think to come here, because this area is very civil rights heavy as it relates to visitors who come to seek history, because Greensboro's right up the street. And when we talk about what happened February the 1st with the students at North Carolina A&T, they go to the Woolworth and the museum up there, which rightfully so, because it's a It's a very, very important site. But I think that sometimes this site gets looked over. I happen to pass this site numerous times throughout my years being here in North Carolina early on, until I was very intentional about researching some new things that I have not necessarily done here in the state. And this was one of the places that it led me to. So, and I try to stop here as much as I can whenever I get the opportunity. Still on the campus. Huge. Someone who was 19 years old had the ingenuity to want this to be part of their vision and made it happen. So this right here is the tea house. In 1929, Green Parrot Tea House, usually just called the tea house, was for students in the canteen, which is the snack shop. The long wing was added in the 1950s as the student body grew. So it looks like they gathered here during their recreation and leisure hours, sharing sodas and snacks. The shop was typically ran by a male senior student and staffed by underclassmen, giving them opportunities to learn business skills. And there's Dr. Brown right there. Of course, older. And this is a student inside working. And these are students fraternizing in 1947. 19 years old with this type of vision. But the thing is, she was well traveled to other countries. And so I'm sure that she saw other models and said, hey, I can do that too. And she came home and she did the damn thing. And we have proof because we're here today and you're following me. And I appreciate you for doing that, because you're getting this knowledge real time, just like I am. So these are the female dorms, if I remember correctly. Galen Stone Hall. I'm gonna turn this around. But they're doing some construction over there, so I won't bother those folks. Well, perhaps I'll go check out the panel that's there. But this was the bell right here. This was the bell. Yep. And it's up there. And to my understanding, this is the original bell of the building. I wonder if I can ring it. Well, it did say do not enter, but it's not saying that anymore. Let's see. Let's go. Here we go. We're getting closer. There we go. So I'm sure once folks heard that, they knew exactly what it meant. All right. Let's keep on going. The Palmer Institute. Now, you can't have this many kids without having sports, and that they did. This is the athletic area. They had dance class right there, baseball, basketball right here, and it looks like just other recreational things for physical activity. They said that it was a very important part of the life for Palmer students. And a clay tennis court is what they had. So perhaps that's what that is right there. And if you look far off into the distance, this would be the area in which students would partake in that. All right, so this is Galen Stone Hall, which I mentioned earlier on another panel that we read. So I think, again, this was the women's side of the campus. Now, we know that folks met halfway in between. I remember being in school and being on campus, and everyone finds a way. I don't know if it was at the tea room or the tea building or what have you, or it could have been right here, up under the steps, at the water thingamajiggy, but we know that it had to have happened, right? All right, yep, so this is the girls' dorm, right here. Some beautiful students, student Kay Gordon Brandon in her dorm room in 1962, getting ready for prom. And these are some other folks. Student Barbara Johnson Randolph in front of Massachusetts Cottage. So yeah, this was the women's dorm. Doing some work on that as well. And Sedalia is a very, very small town. Like tiny. That is the actual post office right over there. See the post office. And this is Kimball Hall. And I think like the performing arts was here in this building. I screened a documentary here and it was right here in Kimball Hall. So, okay, so this was actually the dining hall. Students filled the role of waitstaff and served meals. Diners entered the building through coat rooms corresponding to their side of the campus. So left for the girls and from the right, the boys. Students said prayers before every meal. So this was the actual dining hall for the students. So I'm telling y'all, this was literally like a college campus back then. It's pretty dope. So she just set high expectations, you know, teaching the students discipline, elegance, and the importance of giving back to the community. It's just amazing. That's the outside of the campus. Let me see if we can actually get inside the Welcome Center, which has a lot of different panels that provides more education about Charlotte Hawkins Brown and the Palmer Institute in its entirety. And maybe I can get inside the house. I don't know. We'll have to see. So sit tight. All right, so I made it into the visitor center and I wanted to show you all some of the panels that they have on Miss Brown. She was born June the 11th, 1883 in Henderson. Just so many wonderful things about this woman, you all. It's well worth the visit if you're able to come, for sure. And her work stretched everywhere. She was, even though she was based here in North Carolina, the work that she did stretched across the globe. And these are some things related to the school in this encasing. There's a Latin book that's right here. There's an iron and wood plane right there. A couple of other things. Some sheet music. And this is her in the 1950s speaking at a graduation. Right here. And this is something else where she is speaking at a freedom rally. So very, very diverse and definitely not one-dimensional for sure. It says right here, the organization put on several Negro freedom rallies, many of which were enormous, with an interracial audience of upwards of 25,000 attendees, held in Madison Square Garden. And so in her speech, she, which was titled The Role of the Negro Women in the Fight for Freedom, she advocates for access to jobs for Black women and decried Jim Crow laws. So definitely not a pushover. But this is in the visitor center. All right, folks, so I was able to gain access to the house. My fingers and toes and eyes were crossed, so it happened. Thanks to the staff that's here. And so this was the piano I was telling you all about that I remembered, and Nat King Cole did play this piano right here. He was married to Charlotte Hawkins Brown's niece, and so that is the story behind his connection here. And this is the living room, and there are pictures, I believe, of her family that is here. This is one of them. And on top here, was this like a grandmother?
Yes.
This was her grandmother. Right here. The window is, there you go. And this is Dr. Brown, correct? All right, and that's Dr. Brown. A very, very helpful staff member is hiding out of the video. But you may hear her voice because I may have some questions and she can answer, right? Yeah. And so plenty of books. She was an educator, of course, so you couldn't expect anything less. So plenty of books. And I'm telling you, you all have to come to this site. It's very well preserved and it's amazing. This home, as well as the Mary McLeod Bethune-Cookman home that is in DC, was pretty amazing as well. So here's a cake. This was kind of standard in people's homes back in the day, especially when guests would come. So you would have that. She taught etiquette class as well, right? Yep, she taught the kids etiquette. Now, would this be original?
A lot of what's downstairs is original, and
Okay.
if not, it's of the time period.
It's of the time period.
About the 30s and 40s.
Okay, cool. And we'll walk into the kitchen. There's some more plates and things like that right there. And so this was the kitchen area. Waffle makers, toaster, and a cookbook. Gotta have that, right? And if you open up the blinds, you get to see all the curtains rather, you get to see where all the kids were out ripping, running, and playing. And this is the stove in which you would put wood in to get going. As you see right here. Open that up. And the refrigerator. Electrolux is a brand that has been around for a while. And this was a kerosene refrigerator. All right, so this is another room in the home. Had a bird cage and more books. Again, she was a scholar and educator. And here is the bathroom. Right here. It's always pretty dope to be able to get into these homes. Is this a letter that she, or a speech that she was writing where it says where we are in race relations?
I want to say that one is from the 40s, 50s.
Okay, 40s and 50s. Looks original. Is it original? Really?
I don't think so.
No?
I think it's a very, very good reproduction.
Okay, so this is a reproduction. And this is a picture of what it would have looked like back then. Good stuff. All right, folks, let's head on upstairs. Actually, let's see. Upstairs this way?
Yeah.
Go this way? Okay, cool. All right. Mosey on upstairs. Everything original, hardwood floors?
Hardwood floors are believed to
Yeah? Okay.
As far as stuff upstairs, it's more of the time period.
Okay, other time period. All right, cool. This is one room. Woodbury Cleansing Cream, that brand I have not seen, so I'm not sure if they're still in motion. Smelling Salts by Yardley of London. So this is where folks would get all prettied up, all dolled up. It's a pretty big house. Here's another room. You can imagine all of the guests who came through here, Nat King Cole and dignitaries and other people who were of status. Or maybe not, just regular folks. All right, that's room number 2. And for people that have no earthly idea what this is a telephone. Yes, it was not digital back then. Everything wasn't modern. Here's another room. And I think that this served as her bedroom, if I remember correctly. So people were definitely shorter back then because this sink you had to bend all the way over to brush your teeth and everything. And this is the tub. Love it when I get the opportunity to get into these homes. The Mary L. Walker home, or Maggie Walker home that's in Richmond, Virginia, is also another pretty nice home. This house reminds me of it. All right, let's check out the other bathroom, which is right here. Well preserved. And these are heaters. And that's a weight scale. And this is the last room right here with double beds. Look like twin size beds. And so all of this was of the time period in her home. Things that I have absolute no use for because I've been bald for a while. But this is another bedroom. And so that's it. You all have the outside tour as well as the inside tour of her home. We'll do one more scan through, and I appreciate you all for joining me along this journey. And this is definitely a site that you have to check out. Of course, it's Black History Month, so if you want to come during this month, that's cool, but you can come at any time to visit these types of historic sites related to not just Black history, but American history, because that's what this is. This is American history. And all histories deserve to be appreciated and accessible. And this site allows you to come into the space and to tour it with little restrictions. Of course, you got to be on your best behavior, but it allows you to see what type of space some of our heroes and sheroes lived in and the work that they did while alive. So this is it. Thank you all for joining. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and share, and make sure to visit this site. It's absolutely amazing. It's in Sedalia, North Carolina, which is not too far from Greensboro. And so it's in between Greensboro and Charlotte and Salisbury. So peace and blessings.